Am
I right here?
So we're feeding live as well.
Yep. Cool, thank you. Awesome. Did anyone want a sound check or we're ready to go?
Yeah, just get a quick one.
Yeah, Meaghan Scanlon, Minister for the Environment, Great Barrier Reef, Science and Youth Affairs. Yeah. Sorry, I'm a bit short.
Sorry, Meagsy.
That's all right, I got my flats on today. Cool. Excellent. Well, wonderful to be in Burleigh today. We know our national parks generate around $2.6 billion for our local economy every year, and I was just hearing that Burleigh, the national park here, has seen 1.2 million visitors come to just this site alone. So this proves how important these natural assets are, not only for conservation reasons, but also for our local economy. People come to these national parks to experience these natural wonders, but also to spend money at our local cafes, restaurants, pubs and clubs, and I can say today they're very busy in Burleigh, which is wonderful to see. We, of course, know that after the floods there's been some impacts to our national parks. Around 40 of them are closed or partially closed, and we've got rangers out on the ground responding to those instances. They're trying to get these up and running as soon as possible, particularly for that busy Easter break. Right here, one of the most popular tracks, the Ocean Parade area, is currently shut due to some landslides, but teams are out there trying to get this up and running as quickly as possible so that more families can come here over the Easter break and enjoy these beautiful areas. But today I'm announcing grants of up to $20,000 for community conservation groups. We know there are so many wonderful groups across this state, from Friends of National Parks, I've got one in Nerang, and First Nations groups, a whole range of community-led organisations who do some fantastic work in our national parks. What we're doing is providing grants of up to $20,000 to help them do things like weeding, planting, doing new map trails to make it an even better experience for tourists, to work with First Nations communities to try and make sure that when tourists come they really understand the significance of this area to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So I encourage those community groups across the state to have a look online, apply for this grant. We want to make sure that we can help you protect these incredible green spaces that are so important to our environment, but also to our tourism industry as well. Any questions?
Yeah, so these groups, once they get the money, I guess what sort of things will they implement to protect these areas?
Yeah, so it can range from a whole, they can apply for a whole range of projects. They can apply for funding to, as I said, put in plants. They can do weeding. That often costs money to buy all of those different pieces of equipment and material. They can also use this money, as I said, to do trail experiences, to do maps, so it's easier for people coming to these areas to really understand more about the community. We want to see more from First Nations community groups across the state to be able to really highlight to our community and visitors how important these areas are and the history and the connection and culture. So there are a whole range of things that people can apply for. I encourage those groups to hop online. They already do an amazing job. This is just about giving them that extra bit of money to make them do even more work.
And are our national parks under threat at the moment, because we're seeing so many changing all of the conditions and whatnot?
Yeah, well, we were just talking before about the fact that, this particular national park has been impacted by fire, more recently floods. We know the climate is changing. That's why we have to keep investing to protect these national parks, but also why we have to make sure we do everything we can to try and reduce the amount of emissions that our state and our country is producing so that we can minimise the impact of climate across this country.
Is there going to be a number of grants available, and do you expect it to be quite competitive between the groups?
Yeah, so there's $700,000 available, so up to $20,000 for each group. There's amazing groups out there, so I really encourage people to have a look online. Some people might not need the full $20,000, they might need only $5,000. So, I encourage people to think about what they need, have a conversation with the department. We're really keen to support them. I know rangers already have a lot of interactions with those groups. We all work together to try and focus on the ultimate aim of conservation of these beautiful green spaces.
Could we chat to yourself and then get Meaghan on other topics?
Yeah.
Sweet, thank you.
Excellent.
So could we just get your name and spelling and title?
Sure, it's Mark Patenaude, Patenaude, and my title's Senior Ranger of the Gold Coast area.
Alrighty, well I guess what is the condition of the national parks across across the Gold Coast at the moment, and are these sorts of grants, quite desperately needed?
So the conditions of the national parks are continually assessed. So we have some at high value and some at some stages are decreasing. And I can't express how important the community volunteer groups are in protecting those reserves directly and as well as indirectly through education and appreciation of the protected areas. They show a lot of passion and pride when they come out and do this kind of work, and they get to understand, like Meaghan was talking about, how the cultural and natural values of these areas are.
We heard about how important they are for tourists as well. What's been your experience, with people coming to visit? What do they say about seeing our national parks here?
My favourite question that I always get is, how do you get a job like that, or something similar, not a bad office. So I think they really appreciate the fact that we've got areas that you can access with such beauty, not only here on the coastline where you've got Burleigh in the background here, but also when you go into the hinterland of the Gold Coast, you've got Tamborine, Nerang, Lamington, World Heritage areas. So they really appreciate being out there and amongst it.
Cool.
Great,
Alrighty.
thank you.
All right, bear with me, I've got a long list of questions.
All good.
Okay, so firstly, what do you make of claims by former media advisor Neil Dawley that he was told to leak damaging information against a rural fire boss, Justin Chabot?
Yeah, look, I understand that Minister Craig Crawford answered these questions yesterday, so I don't really have anything to add other than, of course, the Minister has said that he had no knowledge of that, and, that's really all I can comment on that.
Okay. Do you agree with the Premier when she suggested that the Integrity Commissioner and Robert Setter should get in a room, sort out their issues with the mediator, and then get back to work because Mr Setter allegedly called her a bitch on a witch?
Yeah, look, ultimately any allegations should be taken seriously, as is the case for any public service employee. There are a whole range of ways in which people can deal with disputes, and anyone who has any complaint or any dispute that they wish to elevate can do so in that appropriate format. That's what our position has always been.
So you agree with the Premier that that's a good way to sort it out?
Look, that's ultimately a way in which it can be sorted out, as is the case in many other workplace disputes. That's the proper course of action.
Should there have been a wider review about the use of private emails for ministers?
Look, there was, following the thorough investigation by the CCC in 2017, so some time ago, where there was a determination that there was no corrupt conduct, there was a recognition that we needed to make it clear to all ministers and public servants around what record-keeping expectations there are on all levels within the public service. And so, that information was circulated. We're all aware of our obligations and comply with them.
What would be the harm in having a full commission of inquiry into integrity issues?
Well, we have a standing Royal Commission already, so anyone who has any allegations should refer them to the CCC. Anything that isn't referred is just political mudslinging.
What do you make of the opposition's claims that the government has been backgrounding against the Integrity Commission?
Well, look, I have no knowledge or evidence of that. Again, if anyone has any allegations, they can put them forward through the proper processes. We're focused every day on making sure we respond to floods, making sure that we protect Queenslanders from COVID-19, that we're getting our economy back up and running. Those are the things that we're focused on every day. Anyone who has allegations can put them forward through the proper processes that have been strengthened by our Labor government.
How do you rate the government's performance on integrity as a whole?
Well, look, we've brought in a whole range of measures around integrity. We, of course, when you compare them with the opposition who sacked the PCCC in the middle of the night, gutted funding from the CCC, undermined these institutions at every opportunity, we have restored faith in those systems. We, of course, brought back that CCC process. We're doing we've had the PCCC inquiry of that. We made it more transparent around political donations. We prohibited developer donations. I think our track record is pretty clear that this government is focused on making sure that we are a government that has transparency. We're a government that wants to make sure that we do everything in the public interest.
So would it be fair to say that you rate the government's performance quite highly?
Well, I think our performance compared to the Newman government is significantly better. We have at every stage implemented recommendations from independent inquiries. We have strengthened laws around transparency and public accountability. That's our track record.
One more on this topic and then I've just got a different one. So Neil Dawley says he was in the minister's office and instructed to leak information against the Rural Fire Association. Are you aware if the minister was at that meeting?
No, I'm not aware of any of that information. I understand the minister stood up or responded to these comments yesterday, but no, I'm not privy to that information, sorry.
Sweet. And just on a different topic, have you heard anything back from the federal government about the 50-50 funding of the flood package yet?
My understanding is we haven't as of yet, but of course we continue our calls on the Commonwealth to match that funding. You know, we need to build back better. That's what this funding is about. We know that Queensland, unfortunately, bears the brunt of natural disasters. We need to make sure we're planning properly. That's why we put this money on the table, and we're just asking the Commonwealth to match us. Excellent. Anything else? Cool, thank you.
Thanks for being the only minister.